What is up? Jabroni JJ back here with Bruce and Mangone talking a little college football. Big T is somewhere enjoying the lavish lifestyle of New York City. So you hate to see it, but at the same time, you love to see it. As for this week, nice interesting slate on DraftKings 14 gamer. We'll talk through each game. I'll even give out a few bets I'm on some of these early games as well. But before we do that, I do want to touch on last week a bit. Injury mayhem. I mean, I know we have this happen a few times a year where, guys get hurt and whatnot. But I'll be honest, like the most tilting thing for me was Ibrahim last week. I mean, dude, I know that these teams don't have to put out college injury reports, but the dude's taking first team snaps. There's nothing that says he's actually not going to play. He's fully suited up, and then the game starts and he never sees a single snap. For me, that was really painful because the whole reason for me liking O'Connell at that price in that spot was that Minnesota would score. Minnesota not scoring because their running game sucked meant Purdue went more conservative. Charlie Jones got hurt in the game as well, had to come back. And that doesn't even begin the list of injuries. Dylan Gabriel goes down. Brock from Iowa State goes down. Just a lot of semi-chalk and chalk went down with injury. Bruce Mangone, how did you guys make out last week in the main slate? Because it was like, do I have a lineup where everybody survived?
Yeah, the wound had just started to close, and then you brought it up again, and yeah, it hurts. I didn't do well at all. It was one of those things where all this happens and you just move on to the next slate. Nothing you can do about it. So, yeah, it was rough. I'm looking forward to this week now to get a little bounce back here.
Yeah, I think my favorite part about the slate last week is like I had all these guys hurt, right? And I find a couple lineups where I'm like, man, like we're good. Like these could get through, right? It only takes one. And then like 3:30 starts and like, I just start losing bodies on that team too. Like it was just every single time. Then I don't think I played the late slate. And then I heard like the late slate guys were going down. I mean, it was just an absolute slaughter. So that's okay. Hopefully some of you took advantage of it in some ways. I wish I didn't have as much Ibrahim last week, not because of like obviously the injury and everything, but I don't know. Looking back, I realized I wish I would have had less even before the injury. I was like, I don't love my ownership on it. So overall, I don't know. I like my approach this week, and I think it's going to be a good week. And Big T is not going to be here, guys. It is not, wasn't in the plan, but his Wi-Fi is really terrible for one. I don't know. I wish we had like a point of view camera on Big T, aka as like people on Twitter, hillbilly. I'd love to see the hillbilly in New York City walking around town. That would be a joy to watch.
I'll mention this to you guys because before we go into the show, I do want to talk a bit on late swap. So last week I cost myself about I cost myself exactly $19,000. So if I didn't look at any of my lineups on DraftKings, which I usually don't, but sometimes I do, I would have actually placed in second in that 4-4-4 or 2-2, whatever it is, the 3-3-3 for 20K. I late swapped out to the chalk because I had so much advantage over my people below me. So I swapped to Brock in the flex to block everybody beneath me. And lo and behold, they all had Brock, so I felt great. But Brock takes one snap and gets hurt. I swapped him with Ward. Ward would have had me in second place from FSU. You hate to see it, but real quick, what's your guys' take on late swaps? I've obviously had late swaps that have helped me. That obviously last week hurt me. You guys let it ride, or what do you do? Do you look to who you can block out in tournaments? How do you normally do it, especially in this sport?
Yeah, especially go ahead, Nick. Especially like in the smaller stuff, you can kind of tell what's going on. Like I had Hutchinson in my main lineup, and after all the injuries happened, I swapped him out and stuck with Brock, which was a terrible decision in hindsight. But yeah, I love, especially in the smaller field stuff, late swapping. That's why keeping those late game guys in the flex spots is so important.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no right or wrong, man. You approach it the same way. Like you're open for late swap.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm down to do it. It's just like, it's not the easiest thing to figure out too, but if I more so do it, like if I feel like it's kind of like if I feel like I'm like pretty dead, or like if I think I have this team at the top that's like really strong and I'm like, okay, what am I doing playing this 1% guy? Like maybe this guy already came in at like 3% that I didn't expect. And like, this guy's just an infinitely better play, but I try not to go too crazy with it. I just And I think the best thing to do with it is either don't look at like as much like the in-between teams, like look at the teams that like look the most live first. Let's start there. And then like, if you have time, start with the teams that are just like totally dead with like just crappy guys and just, I don't know, like mess around, throw some different things out there. Maybe you'll be surprised if like you get off like some crazy chalk stuff and maybe you play something really low and it might open your eyes and you're like, wow, like, I couldn't believe this team actually cashed and like did as well as it did with that terrible score. And then maybe it like kind of teaches you a little bit. Hey, sometimes this is why lower owned plays can kind of get you to the top of the leaderboards.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to skin it. To your point, yeah, you want to typically, if you feel like your lineups are dead and you have a good idea on where everybody else is, you want to make a swap. But interestingly enough, no regrets from my end from last week. And I don't think you can, like, if you're going to swap, you can't kick yourself over it. It is what it is. But either way, we move on to this week. This is an interesting slate. I think that, Bruce, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. I believe this is the best job DraftKings has done with pricing all season long.
Yeah. I was thinking that same thing last night as I was going through looking for value. It's rough. It's rough down there. I think most of it's just perfect. After the last few weeks, they must have got on whoever makes the pricing because it's extremely rough.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see some really spread out ownership today on some of these guys, especially at quarterback. I feel like he did a relatively good job there. Running backs, they made it really tough to pay up for any of these guys. Wide receivers, a few of them are underpriced, but nothing crazy. I just think they did a really good job. So we'll just kick right into the slate. I'll go by the DraftKings order. So Florida, Missouri, implied total for Florida of 32.5, Mizzou 21.5. So plays to me that are relevant on the Missouri side, Pete and Burden. Florida, to me, the best pound for pound play in this game is Florida's quarterback Richardson. Problem is you're going to see this a lot. I think it's kind of like last week where you have a lot of these quarterbacks that are dual threats that it's tough to stomach pairing them with receivers. Henderson or Pearsall on the Florida side, but it's hard to love that. I do think at the price though, this game could get overlooked quite a bit. I don't know. Let me ask you this, Bruce. What do you see in Richardson's ownership at?
Should be maybe 10% or so.
Yeah. So to me, I find that part fascinating, and I'll definitely be overweight on him, primarily because if you look at the price range above him, that those 7,300 guys like Duggan, and then you get more into guys like Daniels at 69. LSU's quarterback Daniels is also in there at 73. Just a lot of these guys, Will Rogers at 77, Robinson 78. The price of Richardson, to me, he has similar upside to all of them, and he's cheaper than all of them. And I think because people aren't going to want to stack anything in this game, I think that's why he's going to go even less owned, to your point, 10%. But pound for pound, I think he's one of the better plays on the slate at that price. The problem is that, again, you can't really pair him with anybody. You're not going to feel comfortable running him back with anybody. You kind of got to play him naked and not feel great about it. But to me, he's the best play in this game, price per dollar. Bruce, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, the hard thing for me to figure out is the Mizzou run game. I really like Pete, and Florida's been gashed on the ground. If you look at the Tennessee game, they were destroyed there. Also, I think it was South Florida that maybe had 10 yards of carry. So the Mizzou running game is interesting. It should be a split between Pete and Schrader. So, you kind of have to stomach that if you do play Pete, but that's interesting to me. Dominic Lovett also, I think he had 7 targets in the first half against Georgia and put up a decent score. Sat out the second half with an injury, so kind of need to watch for that pregame. And then Luther Burden, of course, just a stud there at wide receiver. I think we could see Burden's ownership pretty high because he's only 3,800 on DraftKings.
Mangone, what are your thoughts on this game?
Which game are you on? I was busy getting the play of the day from Anthony. What game are we
on? Game number 1, Mangone. Let's not make this a trend all show.
I'm sorry. I have a lot going on.
Florida, Missouri.
Got a lot going on. Oh yeah, that's because I checked out when you started talking about Anthony Richardson. I remember I was like, okay, Anthony Richardson is a guy that I just don't really want to play right now. Mainly why is like the dude's not running like he used to. Like, sure, when the pressure gets applied, he'll run if he needs to, but they're not like designing runs for him, right? Not like Jalen Daniels. That's the key. I just don't think Richardson is my quarterback this week. There's a lot of quarterbacks to like too. That's the other thing. I do want to have some cheaper quarterbacks, and to be fair, he is a nice cheap quarterback that you can run naked if you want to. So I totally understand it. But for me, I just don't see myself getting to Richardson as much today. Like I said, there's one build that I want to look at that I think could be really interesting, where if you do go cheaper with your quarterbacks, I feel like you can get all like the running backs and receivers that I kind of want, but I just don't really want to play Richardson that much. There's just so many good options that you can go to. And like, I think you're going to need a huge score at quarterback this week. Not that Richardson can't do that, but that's just my concern. I don't think they're designing enough runs for him. On top of that, like I think Lovett on the other side, that's a really good option if you wanted to go like a Lovett Richardson stack to get exposure to this game. That's a way you can go about it. But he's just an interesting value that you can get exposure to. I don't think he's the chalkiest receiver value by any means, but I think he's a good one that you can look at for sure.
Bruce, what are you getting? What are you seeing in regards to his game time status? I know he's questionable. Look like he's going to play. Love it.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, if he plays, he's just a great play. But yeah, we'll keep you updated in the Discord if we see anything pregame.
Cool. Yeah, because I do agree with you. Love it's definitely worth a shot. But man, it's going to be tilting if we do that thing with the full body taking first reps and dude just chills on the sideline all game long. You'll feel dead at 12:05. All right, so we'll move on to the next game. So this figures to be one of the more popular games of the slate. There's a lot of good games. This one definitely figures to be one of them. LSU, Tennessee. So LSU implied total 31-2. Tennessee implied total 33.7. Plays all over in this game. I'll let you guys talk on that because I'm sure we can just talk on practically a lot of these guys are in play today. Daniels for LSU, to me, is another guy much like Richardson. Probably going to come, Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, 10, 12% ownership, maybe?
Yeah, it should be somewhere around there.
Yeah, so another guy to me that has north of 30-point upside with the rushing. Tennessee, they're like fantasy goodness to opponents with how fast they play. LSU doesn't really play slow either, but they will be sped up today. Again, problem with Daniels is, who do you pair him with? Is it pronounced
Butte? Yeah.
Butte.
Now
I felt like he was a stud for them last year, but was he? And then I guess this year he hasn't been doing much. Am I thinking of the right guy?
Yeah.
He's been busy hitting the workbench. He has a child now, so congrats to Butte. But he's I don't know. He hasn't been as good for sure. I don't know if it's like the new coach or maybe Bruce is a better read on it, but he's been quite frustrating for sure.
So I will leave with this. I think pound for pound, the best play on the entire slate is Josh Williams for LSU at 3K. Got 17 carries last week. Basically gets all the goal line work in a game that figures to be fast paced. He's already moved himself up to the starter on the depth chart. Now it is a 3-headed backfield, so that's always tilting. But man, on a slate that really lacks value options at running back and receiver, this dude feels like his floor is like 6 or 7, and at 3K, that's not going to hurt you. And if he is to get anywhere near 20 touches again in a game like this, this dude could definitely break the slate. Bruce, what are you seeing Josh Williams ownership at today?
Somewhere in that 5 to 10 range, I believe.
Yeah, so you can bet your ass I'm going to be way overweight on Mr. Williams today. Now, granted, I will. It is kind of tilting, right? Because they have the bigger contest today with the 750 entries in the big dollar one on DraftKings. I prefer the smaller structure of it because this prize pool is now super top heavy versus the more spread out one. But yeah, I'm going to be heavily invested in Williams today. He burns me, but it's pretty clear. Brian Kelly likes this kid, and like I said, he's moved up the depth chart. A lot of touches last week. I think he he hasn't scored in every game. Am I thinking of the right guy? I guess I am, right? Yeah. But the volume's been there. And like I said, he falls in the box. I mean, yippee. But he's been really strong nonetheless. What are your thoughts on this game, Bruce?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of Josh Williams before you said him. I was dead set on Maccabee from Purdue, but I added him to the playbook because that's a really good point. I think they are trying to work John Emery Jr. a little bit more into the lineup. He's a 4-star running back and probably the most talented guy there. He's got more carries than Williams, but he's a little bit more expensive. So I don't want to pay $4,800 for a three, guy as part of a 3-pack. So I think this game's solid. Hendon Hooker's probably going to be the most owned QB. So gotta make a stand there. Not going to be too owned to a point where you have to play him, but I think he's a good play. Wide receiver, I think Jalen Hyatt's going to be relatively high owned to pair with Hooker. Just a reminder, you can always go naked Hooker there. Wide receiver in this game, I think Neighbors is a good play. He's been solid here the last couple of weeks. Brew McCoy is kind of up there in price now, but still a good play. Butte, I don't think anybody's going to play him just because he's disappointed so much. But he was a stud last year, and he has it in him. So, but yeah, other than that, I don't love this game probably as much as everybody else does. But Hooker is always in play for me.
Yeah, I think because you can find value with some running back spots, and I'll talk on another running back value spot as we move on the show. But yeah, I mean, I get it on a slate where you can find value, more trusted value than a guy like Williams. I get why people won't click his name. But I mean, the guy, obviously he's not getting all the goal line work, but I mean, he's around there and he's getting a lot of touches. Mangone, how are you approaching this game? I know you're a big Hooker guy. So him obviously being one of the higher priced guys, but he definitely has some of the highest upside that exists on this slate. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, Bruce starting off his Saturday morning right, naked Hooker. You gotta love it. And you know who else likes it? Our man who's in NYC, Big T. He told me, let me read the text word for word for you guys. He said, my only take for the show is play Hooker and enjoy winning. So there you go. Big T is clearly on Hendon Hooker. I like him a lot too. I really like this top end quarterback range. Like Andrew, I think it was Andrew Martinez in the chat asked. He basically said, like, what am I doing at quarterback? And like, I kind of feel like it's a great week to spend up. I just don't know if I love a lot below like Jalen Daniels for the most part, where like Hendon Hooker is going to be one of these top quarterbacks that I want to jam onto my teams. Now, the problem I have is I don't know who I love as a run back. I think I'm going to add Josh Williams to my pool now, JJ, because of you. So, I kind of been looking for some cheaper running backs to add to my pool. So I'll add him in there. And I have been struggling with, like, what do I do with the LSU run backs? I do think Malik Neighbors is certainly fine. You can make the case for Butte, but I do struggle with them a little bit. And also, like, you can always make the case that, like, playing, like, a Jaden Daniels as, like, in the stack is a good idea. And I totally understand it. My only problem is, like, I just don't really want to play that, like, LSU receiver guessing game. Like, I just have to get the stack right, and then I have to get that as well. So that's one of the concerns I have. I also kind of think, I don't know, maybe I'm undervaluing LSU, but I think Tennessee rolls today. Like, I really do. So I like Hooker a lot, though. Definitely going to play him, like Hyatt, like Brew McCoy. I think they're good options that you can compare with them. If you want to play some Jabari Small, I think that's perfectly fine. But there are other running backs that I prefer a bit. So the one thing I'm struggling with, though, is like who to really play on the LSU side that, like, I'm actually, like, excited about. Like, that's the struggle right now, Dunkel.
Yeah, I think you may have answered the question for yourself. You don't know who to play, and there's a minimum price running back who's likely going to see 8 to 10 touches. Like I said, like, to me, Williams can bust entirely. Of course, his floor is probably 2, but to me, and again, it's going to be fast paced. He's going to be on the field for at least 30 to 40% of snaps. I like the option on that end. All right. So moving next, Mississippi State, Arkansas. So looking at an implied total of 34 for Mississippi State, Arkansas 24. So I'm kind of not happy that they priced Will Rogers this high. I understand why they did. The guy's obviously super consistent. But last week he was 66, a pretty big price jump for him. And we talk about upside at certain prices. Like, the only way Will Rogers gets you there today, and I think we had this conversation about Aiden O'Connell a few weeks back when Aiden O'Connell was like 7,700 or 7,400, something like that. Guys like Will Rogers, they have ceilings because they don't rush. Now, granted, you can get lucky and, maybe he falls in the end zone on a 1-yard sneak or something. But for him to get you there on a slate this large at that price, he's basically going to need to throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, and if he does that, he could still be outscored by Hooker, even if he does that, or these other guys in this price range. So for me, may call it crazy, may not. I don't really know or really care, but I will have 0% Will Rogers today. If he beats me, he beats me. I'm sure he'll see some ownership. I will play the receivers from this team, though. Ra Thomas is my favorite look on that side. But again, you could basically play any of these receivers. They all share volume. Just seems like Thomas has been the most consistent. On the Arkansas side, also you could play the running back. I'm not in love with the idea of Dylan Johnson, but at the price anyway. But he's a relatively safe running back for the most part, and he's getting better looks than Marks is. On the Arkansas side, I don't really think I love anybody. Sanders is a like for me. I don't love it in this spot. I know he's pretty consistent. He's still only 62. So the spot, in theory makes sense. Got a pretty high floor. So I don't mind Raheem Sanders. I'm not going to be overweight on Raheem Sanders though, but I definitely can plug him in. But to me, those are the only real options in this game. Mangone, I'll start with you this time. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like Raheem Sanders. He's going to be someone that I look to for sure today. Just because I'm assuming there's no KJ Jefferson. And I mean, this dude's just going to be a bell cow today, right? At that 6K range. So, I mean, one argument you can make is like, or don't get me wrong, like I know Bijan Robinson, I love him and all, but like he's 9K, right? And I can get like probably more volume for like that price is 6K. Like, I don't know. I just think Sanders is such a strong play and one that I want to really look to today. So definitely like him. He's going to be a running back that I get a lot of exposure to. The receiver that I would look to play probably on Mississippi State is probably Ducking. I mean, he's been pretty consistent, 5.5K. I think he's someone to add to the pool, not someone you're jamming in or anything, but I think he's solid. And then I also think Landers is a pretty interesting option at 3.5K. He's a decent value. The problem is, though, you have a different quarterback, right? So, like, what is he going to be like in this role? That's always one thing to be a little concerned about. So, overall, though, it's like really Sanders or bust for me, mainly.
Cool. Bruce, how are you approaching this game?
Yeah, I love Rocket Sanders in this spot. Mississippi State is defensive line isn't great, and he should see 20 carries or so, a couple targets. Just a good spot for him. Should be a lot of scoring in this one. I'm very interested to see what Cade Fortin looks like. I know they'll probably run Hornsby a little bit out there as well, who's kind of their rush threat. Just a very explosive quarterback. Wide receivers, I do like Landers a little bit, 3,500, as Mangone said. Ra Thomas, he's priced up a little bit, but it's 3 touchdowns on the year, and then Ducking has 6 touchdowns on the year. So both those guys are solid plays. You can even say a guy like Justin Robinson at 3K. I think he was at Virginia Tech last year. Maybe I'm wrong, but 3K should see maybe 3 to 5 targets on the field for more than half the game. So I think he's a good value option.
Good stuff. We'll move on to the next game. Another popular one, Kansas TCU. Daniels for Kansas. Bruce, what are you seeing? 20%, 22, something like that?
Maybe 15.
Is it even lower?
Yeah, that game kind of coming in under-owned. I thought it would be a little bit higher. So it could be, ownership projections could always be wrong, but I am seeing him a little bit lower than I thought.
So I will say this, I will definitely be underweight on Max Duggan. I told you guys I'd be underweight on him last week. I think he came in at like 9% owned. I was actually like 3 times the field on him. I thought a lot of people would play him last week. And he wasn't. So shame on me. What are you seeing his ownership this week? So I could tell you more accurately if I'll be underweight or overweight.
He should be around 20 for sure.
Okay. So I will definitely be underweight on Duggan this week. I just try to stick to certain disciplines in this sport. I don't like pay. I most often don't like paying up for quarterbacks on the road in this sport. And I also don't like paying for peak dollar on a quarterback, especially after a career game. just the sport tends to ebb and flow. And I get it. This is a good spot for this team. But I also bet Kansas. So there's that, I guess, as well. Kansas catching 7 in this spot just seems like an enormous amount of points. I know TCU embarrassed Oklahoma, but it's pretty clear this Oklahoma team's a different team this year. And speaking of a different team this year, Kansas is a different team this year. I like the spot for them to at least hang around. And Daniels is a really good spot at 6,900. I know he's going to be popular, but to Bruce's point, we're going to keep mentioning quarterbacks. There's going to be a bunch of these guys in that 10 to 20% range because of just where you got to situate money. And when you talk about upside, Daniels has 40-point upside. He's 6,900. Coming off a subpar game where the game just kind of slugged as a whole. This game should not slug. You got Sonny Dykes, who runs TCU now. They play fast. They throw the ball over the field. This is the type of game that speeds Kansas up and gets them to score more than they normally would. Now, Devin Neal, to me, is an underrated play in this game as well. Should see a handful of touches at 54. People might be scared off by his game logs. But, I mean, the guy should see volume. Now, it looks like Kai Thomas is back for Kansas. I don't know how much that could cut into the workload. But I guess it's worth, of course, noting. But his show being out, I would expect Neal to see a little more touches. Kendre Miller figures to be a good play again. I don't mind playing him, but yeah, definitely going to be underweight on the Duggan side because this was a guy that wasn't running at all. And what do you have? Like 2 40-yard run, like just ridiculous. So yeah, could that happen again? Of course it can, but he just doesn't have the typical rush upside because Sonny Dykes' offense don't usually have mobile quarterbacks. I know Duggan is mobile from last year, but he likes his guys to stay in the pocket. And I mean, look at his rushing numbers before last week. Like he doesn't break those 2 big ones. His day looks completely different. So yeah, I'm gonna be off Duggan. If he beats me, he beats me today. And I think the other thing is like the receiving game for both these teams. You don't love it. Now they've overpriced these TCU receivers where they spread the ball all over the place. Just hard for me to really get to Duggan. I'm okay with Naked Daniels at that price because I feel like he has in most games more upside than Duggan, and he's cheaper and he's home. But yeah, other than that, that's kind of some of my takes from the game. Mangone, I'll start with you again. How are you approaching this one?
Mangone? Are you talking to me or are you talking to Bruce? Because you lagged.
Unless Bruce changed his name to Mangone. But yeah, so the TCU Kansas game. Mangone, how are you approaching it? Did we lose him again, Bruce?
Maybe.
Bruce, we'll start with you.
Sure.
On TCU Kansas, maybe he's having an issue with his mic. How you approach this one? Obviously going to see some decent ownership at both quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think the play is naked QBs in this game. I do like Duggan a little bit more than you do, just because I saw Riley Leonard kind of tear them apart through the air and on the ground. He rushed for like 5 yards a carry, and that was at Kansas as well. So I do kind of like Duggan a little bit more than you do. I do like Daniels in a bounce back spot. Iowa State kind of kept an extra DB on the field the whole game, which I should have expected more of, and shut him down. They've done well against running QBs, and I kind of went back and looked at that and realized how stupid of a play that was. But I also like the running backs here. Devin Neal should smash. I do see Kai Thomas coming back. It's cutting into his work just a little bit, but I think Neal's very talented, and this is a kind of an overrated TCU defense. It's not great on the defensive line. Kendre Miller, I think he's a great play. Should see maybe 15 to 18 touches or so, and averaging 7.5 yards a carry with 5 touchdowns on the ground this year. Just crazy. I don't really want to touch the receivers here. I think you can play Johnston and GPPs, but 6,800, that's crazy to pay for somebody who hasn't done anything this year. But yeah, other than that, I'm good. I think naked QB is the way to go here.
Looks like we temporarily lost Mangone. Maybe he'll be back in a few moments, but I guess until then we could just move on to the next game and I'll get his thoughts on this game when he pops back in. But moving on to the next game. So Oklahoma, Texas, another interesting game. Gabriel's basically out, right, Bruce? I mean, I know he's questionable, but he's basically out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to be out.
So Mangone, is that you? Is he back?
I think so. Looks like he's on mute, maybe.
Yeah, actually on my screen looks like he's sleeping. You know what the sad part is? And I don't know if he'll hear this or not, but the sad part is I'm supposed to go to this guy's house to watch college football today. And could you imagine me going to his house with no Wi-Fi, watching games on Gamecast? Woof.
He's got the McDonald's internet.
It'll be a tough scene for our friend Uncle. Anywho, so Oklahoma, Texas, Gabriel out. Bevel to me is unplayable at 79. I mean, granted, you want to talk about a tournament leverage spot, sure, but no, unplayable for me. Bijan Robinson obviously expects to be somewhat popular, at least. From the running back position, you're getting volume from him. He's almost a lock to at least land in the box. And on the receiving end for Texas, I mean, so Worthy's back, right? Which his price, I'd argue he's still not priced where he should be, but I don't know how many snaps he was in. It didn't feel like he was in a lot early in the game. And then it seemed like they used him a lot more as the game went on. If he plays a full plethora of snaps, yeah, he's one of the better receivers in the country. But they do spread the wealth over there in Texas. So it's hard to love the spot, but I'll be honest, like no one, I mean, let me ask you this quick, Bruce. Quinn Ewers or Ewers, how is it pronounced?
Ewers.
Yeah. Obviously now getting the start back because he's healthy. What's your take on him at 65? A guy that's likely going to be overlooked, I assume relatively low owned, easy pair him up with Worthy. What's your thoughts on him? And then of course you would need the run back on the Oklahoma side, which to me would be Gray. This is a weird game. I think ownership in this game is going to be relatively low outside of Robinson, but how are you approaching it?
Yeah, that's my take on it too. It's going to be too low owned. We've seen in the past this game can get out of hand. But with both offenses going back and forth, I love Ewers today as a GPP play. He's going to be under 5% owned, 6,500. He doesn't really have rushing upside, but at that price, we've played O'Connell at 65, 6K somewhere in that range, and he does have a good arm. So looking forward to seeing him today. I think he's 100% healthy. I just got to hope that Card doesn't play at all. That would hurt us a little bit. Of course, Bijan's going to be the most owned running back today. I still, under 30% or so is still a great play on the slate to me, especially for a guy that's going to get most of the snaps. And has 8 touchdowns on the year. Is just explosive, almost 5 yards after contact per attempt. It's just a smash play. And we saw the the same prototype running back kind of hurt Texas in the Alabama game with Gibbs. Gray is similar to him in his role. So he's a good run back, and he's going to be low owned. So if you stack up the game, you can throw him in your stacks. On the quarterbacks for OU, I've heard that they're going to be rotating a little bit. So I don't want any part of that. They supposedly have this freshman kid Evers that's solid, and he should get some play time as well. So I don't want to touch the Oklahoma QB situation. But Marvin Mims always seems to have a big game against Texas, and he's not going to be very owned at all today at that price, almost 8K. And Xavier Worthy he's had an issue the last few games with Card because Card's deep ball isn't great. As we saw in the Alabama game, Ewers would put it right on him down the field. So I do like him today, especially at 6,300. He should be a 7 to 8K wide receiver, especially after his game last week. Whittington and Sanders are also great plays. Sanders at 3,500 is just a stud tight end. Should be in the game most of the time, and has 3 touchdowns on the year at 3,500.
A lot of juicy options there all around. But yeah, either way, we'll move on to the next game. Why isn't so next game up looks like Indiana, Michigan. So to me, and I don't think this is a hot take by any means, I think the only two running backs worth playing today at or above like 7,500 are Corum and Robinson. Now Corum, Edwards seems to be fully back and healthy, but yes, it looks like Harbaugh has now finally fallen in love with Blake Corum, as he should have a while back. It's a good spot for Corum. Well, what do you see in his ownership? 20, Bruce? 15, 20?
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
So, yeah, I think it's another great spot for him. I'm actually happy they put his price this high because this is why his ownership will stay in that area. I personally prefer Corum over Robinson in Texas, so I'll be heavier on Corum than I will Robinson. I will have both. But I think it's a really good spot for him. I'm not in love with anything on the Indiana side. You could probably play Camper if he actually plays, but you're risking there. I still think Ronnie Bell is underpriced. So, I'll have some Ronnie Bell, but he does lack upside in this offense, which makes it tough to really play a lot of him. But I just do think he's underpriced. So yeah, obviously relatively quiet game all around, but I think it's Corum on the Michigan side, and that's really the only conviction I'll have for this game. How are you approaching this one, Bruce?
Yeah, I'm the same. Corum and Camper was just out with an illness last week, so hopefully he's fine. If he is, you could run him back. But I guess an interesting option is Schoonmaker, the tight end for Michigan, plays most of the game and seems to have a good connection with McCarthy. So he's a good value option. But yeah, other than that, I don't want much of this game. We could probably run right by it.
Yeah, not a bad look at all for him at 3,400. Also, folks, can we get some likes on the video? We have 250 of you watching and only 72. We obviously have we obviously run through certain things on this show, but certain things obviously are for members as well. Bruce does a tremendous job with the playbook, core plays as well for every slate, obviously including college. So I'll have my core up at the end of this show. Bruce will, I'm sure, get his core going. That's 6 or 7 different cores to help you build your lineups in college football. And that's obviously something you get with RPS. So yeah, head over to the site, check us out. But yes, like the video because we do run through some of our best plays on this video. Anywho, let's move on. Now we'll see. I do see a question. Donko, Texas. Did you guys say a run back for OU would be Gray? Me personally, my run back would be Gray. But I will also be completely transparent. I will not have a lot of ownership in this game where I'm worried about a run back. But if you were to want to stack this game, to me, the most favorable option at run back would be Gray. That's how I would approach it. All right, Maryland and Purdue. So yes, our friend Aiden O'Connell hurt me last week. But I'll be honest, I don't put it all on O'Connell. I think the game, when you build lineups, you're more or less projecting certain game scripts. Minnesota sitting Ibrahim, the game just slugged, and Purdue didn't need to take any crazy chances. Charlie Jones, once again, was out for an entire quarter before he came back. That slowed down the Purdue passing game. And then he was out on a lot of critical plays as well. So I don't think he was 100% healthy. It looks like he's back to full health today. Question before I even talk on this game, Bruce, do you think there's any chance Purdue swaps out O'Connell today?
I think he's good. He's practiced all week. So hopefully he's fine. It just had that rib issue and gutted it out last week. So he looks good to go.
Cool. So I think you can go right back to O'Connell. This is not a guy I'm going to be as high on as I was last week, but I will be over the field. What are you seeing on him? Again, another guy that's 10, 12%?
Yeah, it should be less than 10.
Less than 10. Okay. So yeah, I think the good part, guys, the good part about consistently going O'Connell is Charlie Jones is once again one of the better wide receiver plays in the slate. So you automatically get the double bang if you go O'Connell. He's cheaper than all these other quarterbacks, but again, he does lack rushing upside. Baby Tua on the other end, right? That's interesting. This guy consistently lets down when he's chalk, but he's probably not going to be super chalky today. Another guy, 10%.
Yeah, should be the same range as O'Connell, looks like.
So, I mean, you're talking on most slates with him at this price in this matchup, a guy like Tua would be 25, 30% on, but because there's so much value everywhere else at quarterback, people are going to look past Baby Tua. And to me, it makes it a good spot to go overweight. I don't love stacking this game, but I do like stacking parts of this game. And the wide receivers, obviously Jones is the easy play. Yeah, you can get in Durham, but as I've said on a weekly basis, for Durham to get there, he needs to score. He can, but to him to get there, he needs to score. Maryland loves to spread the ball around offensively. Jarrett's obviously the safest option, but by safest, that means a ceiling of 20. So it's not ideal outside of Charlie Jones. The running game, though, another one of my favorite value spots on the entire slate at running back. So Littleton is 3,600. Dude led the backfield in snaps last week. He scored in every single game. He's 3,600. What are you seeing his ownership at today, Bruce? Is he less than 20?
He should be in that same range with Maccabee, about 10 or so.
Yeah. So to me, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but him and Johnson, pound for pound, the two best plays of the slate, especially at running back. You talk about on a slate where you want to get in the stud wide receivers, you want to get in your stud quarterbacks, running backs outside of Corum and Robinson. There's really a lot to look past. I love Littleton and Johnson today. Littleton I like more. He is a little more expensive at 36. But I mean, if the dude is going to see the 20 touches today, in a game that's going to be fast paced, he's the biggest running back they have. So he definitely gets most, if not all, of the goal line work. I love the spot for Littleton. And to me, it's an easy, I know I said this last week, it's an easy stack. O'Connell, Jones, run back, Littleton. So if this plays out a little faster paced versus last week, I think we're going to be in better hands, but we'll see. Bruce, what do you like in this game?
I do like your idea with going back to O'Connell. Just pairing him up with someone like Charlie Jones or Durham is a good play, I believe. And the thing about these two teams is they get zero pressure on the quarterback. So O'Connell should have tons of time back there as well as Talia. So you have that going for you. They'll have all day to pick apart these defenses. And you love to see that when you're playing just a prototypical non-running quarterback. So do love that. Devin Maccabee is probably one of my favorite value plays today. When you watch him play, it's just, I don't know, he just looks different, and it's crazy because he's a walk-on and he doesn't look like it at all. 3,500 for him. Him and Littleton are just solid plays. I love listening to you sometimes because sometimes I just get wrapped up in research and I miss a guy or two along the way. And Littleton was one of those guys, as well as Williams. I added Littleton to the playbook as well. I did have him projected pretty well, and 3,600 it just seems like a great play. Great play there. Wide receivers. If I look at the value guys for Maryland, like Corey Dyches, 3,300, 4 targets per game. He's a tight end, of course, and just runs a route on 97% of his plays. You love to see that for a tight end. Raheem Jarrett would be the receiver play I'd go to for Maryland. If you're going to pay up a little bit. Jay Sean Jones is also solid. So, but yeah, I don't love this game, but I can see where it could get out of hand. Maryland can't cover anybody, giving up 44 DraftKings points per game to wide receivers.
Yeah, so I think it just goes back to the price points, right? I think this game's going to not see the ownership it could see. And I think as far as value goes, there's a lot of value in that game. All right, moving on. We're already at the 3:30s. Auburn, Georgia. This is an ugly game, to be honest. We don't know if hold on. What do I have other? No, I'm thinking of a different game. Sorry. I'm thinking of the Arkansas game. Injuries aren't an issue here. Stetson Bennett continues to be overpriced. I'm sure that'll help somebody win a lot of money one day this season, but the guy lacks a high floor. I mean, to put it into perspective, Bruce, the guy has 4 rushing touchdowns in 4 of his last 5 games, and I don't think he's reached value once, and he's not even a rushing quarterback, and he's helped you out to get you 4 rushing touchdowns in each game, 1 rushing touchdown in each game, and he still hasn't gotten there. They're just a team that obviously wants to run the football, and obviously Brock Bowers is in the mix, and Bennett's throwing for 300 yards a game. I mean, I don't know how he's projecting at the NFL level, but this is a guy that's really throwing around the pigskin in a pro style offense, which is good to see. But as far as fantasy goes, he's always overpriced for whatever reason. So easy fade for me. He beats me. As far as running back, Georgia's running back situation is all over the place. I don't want anything to do with it. McIntosh is overpriced. I'd argue, Milton is probably priced slightly over, not a lot. At least he's got a decent floor, but you need him to score a few times if he's going to get you there today. Tank Bigsby's a complete fade for me today. I know he's got upside, but he just hasn't looked like the same running back. And now he faces Georgia, so no thank you. The guys are cheap on the Auburn side, wide receivers, but I don't trust anything in this game. Bowers would be the only guy I would look to at 71. I assume similar sentiment from you, Bruce, or is anybody you like in this game unique?
No, you're spot on with your analysis there. Just Bowers for me and move on. Bigsby just hasn't looked good. He got stopped by San Jose State. So Georgia's 100 times that defense. I just don't want any part of it. I don't mind McIntosh in GPPs. He's getting near 50% of the snaps and about 5 targets per game as well. So I don't mind him there, but yeah, it's just really thin at the running back spot. They just spread it around so much. And Bowers would be the only guy for me there.
Fair enough. Utah, UCLA, another projected shoot. Looking like implied total of 30.5 for UCLA, 34 for Utah. I'm finding it very hard to get to anything in this game with conviction. Now, I know Charbonnet is always in play at 68 because of the amount of volume, the sheer volume he gets. And of course, the dude's rushed for 100, I think in 3 of 5 or 3 of 6, something like that. And he's priced a little high for my liking. I like him 6,500 or less. He's still playable though in this spot. Utah typically plays relatively good on both sides of the ball. Tavion Thomas, I don't even know what to make of him. I don't know why they're not using him. I'm very happy they priced him at this number, because if they priced him where he should be at like 55 or 5, I would have been playing him today. So I'm glad I don't have to worry about that sweat. If Thomas goes for a 40 burger at this price and people paid him, God bless you, because they are just really sharing that backfield right now. Cam Rising's really developed as a decent quarterback, but I don't feel good pairing him with anybody. And I don't really consider him a true dual threat. He runs, but I mean, you really need him to break like a big run. He's not somebody who runs consistently, and he certainly takes sacks. UCLA will speed this team up with Chip Kelly running that offense. And Thompson Robinson's another decent play at 78. I don't know. Another guy I feel like has the same upside as some of the guys that are 73 and 7 that you're paying 78 for. And because he's 78, I assume 10%, Bruce, ownership on Robinson.
I see lower than that, maybe below 5.
So that makes sense, because to me, he has similar upside to all those guys, but he's more expensive. I do prefer playing quarterbacks at home, though. You guys know this. So I will have some Robinson ownership. Rising, I'm finding it really hard to get to. I know he has upside, but I feel like he's priced at his ceiling. And even if he has even if we argued his ceiling is 40, for him to get to 40 would require him to probably rush for 100 and a touchdown. And maybe he's done that once in his career. I don't know. I just feel like he's way overpriced in this spot. So I won't have any Rising. If he beats me, he beats me. And the receivers are a little tricky too, right? So Vel, he's a tight end for them. Is he a tight end or is he a receiver for them?
He's a receiver, but he's a bigger guy.
I know Utah's big with their tight ends. And maybe that's why he doesn't get as much volume. Jake Bobo from Duke has been phenomenal for this team. Speaking of tight ends. However, another guy that I feel like you're coming off a ceiling game. It's hard to love. But yeah, the easiest pair, of course, is Bobo. If you're going to play Robinson and you want to pair him, you don't want to play him naked. I just can't find myself getting to various pieces in this game. I will have touch and go pieces. This will not be a game I stack. If this game goes off, it goes off. But what do you like in this one, Bruce?
I'm kind of thinking like you, just individual guys. I probably won't have any Rising. He's going to be low owned, but he's more of a scrambler than he is just a pure runner. He was at Texas as well when he was younger, and he has a nice upside if he breaks one or two of these. But yeah, I just don't see him scoring as well as some of the other guys in his range today. I won't have any Charbonnet either. This Utah defense is just really solid. The defensive line hasn't been as great, but they're still only allowing 12 points per game to running backs. They did well in containing Florida's rush attack as well in that first game of the year. But yeah, I'm going to echo what you said about the Utah running back situation. I don't get it. Micah Bernard got 62% of the snaps last week. You may remember him from getting burned by Smith and Jigba in the Rose Bowl, playing DB. But yeah, I just can't play him at 8,400. Thomas is just priced too high, and he may not see many carries.
Real quick, we spoke
Sure.
on tight ends for Utah briefly, and Kincaid.
Yeah.
I guess is probably going to see some ownership today. I hate playing Guy. I hate forcing a guy like him in my lineup. And the reason I say forcing is because if he's going to win you money today, he's going to need to score 2 touchdowns. Now, he's done it a few times this year, but at that price, when you talk about the ranges, you're going to need him to get you like 16, 17, and he's not going to get you there on volume. So he's going to need to score. So how are you approaching that tight end situation? Any Kincaid love for you?
Yeah, he's priced well. And ever since Keithy's gone out, he's been a lot better. Let me look at his looking at his target numbers from the last couple of weeks here. And yeah, only 4 targets last week, 8 the week before. So, the volume probably isn't there for that. There's other guys in that range. But yeah, he's probably the safest for a touchdown, I'd say. He was the guy I was actually about to bring up. He scored 5 touchdowns this year already. I think he had 2 last week, maybe on four targets. So that's solid. I really like Cam Brown for UCLA here today. He's a Texas A&M transfer, and I think he scored 1 or 2 touchdowns last week. He looked good. If you want a value piece from that game, I think he's it. Maybe a nice pivot off of the chalkier Kincaid, if you want a piece of that one. And Bobo's looked great. Nobody's been able to cover him so far this season when he's been healthy. And he's such a big wide receiver. I don't know why he looks so much bigger in a UCLA jersey than he did at Duke.
Yeah, he's been putting on that mass.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, it's but a good game nonetheless. I might have a quote unquote mini stack in this game. Now that you got me out to Cam Brown and a little bit on Kincaid, but either way, it's a tough spot to love from every angle. But if you're full stacking, I mean, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. Now this figures to be, at least based on the way these are priced, probably one of the best games to stack of the slate. I would expect ownership to be pretty wild in this game. Well, when I say wild, like wild for a 14-game slate, you got Spencer Sanders, who last week was somebody I definitely got right. I mean, I talked enough about my L's. I was way over the field on Sanders last week, which helped a lot with all the injuries. The problem is I was also way overweight on Braden Johnson, and he didn't really do much. I know he caught one, which was almost a touchdown, which would have helped. But to me, it's right back to the Braden Johnson. Well, I like that they priced him higher personally because less people will play him. He's on the field the entire game. He's a matchup nightmare for most teams. I just don't think the way the game flowed last week, it just didn't flow through him. I think it's going to be a little different today. Miles Price, if he plays, to me, this is a good Miles Price spot. Now, I know I was on him in the Texas game, and then against Kansas State, I was off him. This is a different matchup. This is a spot where it makes sense for Miles Price at this number. I mean, at his price, no pun intended. The volume's going to be there. As long as he plays, I think his floor is like 12, 13, and I think his ceiling is up near 25. They obviously have been targeting him a ton. And I know that you could also play like Cleveland or Sparkman. The two of them have been recently starting for this team, which wasn't the case, I think, when the year began. Not Sparkman. Maybe it is Sparkman. Cleveland? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, both of them started this last game.
Yeah, so if they start again, at least they're on the field. And look, they really got Donovan Smith's price wrong this week. He's underpriced, but man, I hate playing quarterbacks on the road in a spot like this. But his price is too appetizing not to play. So yes, I'm going to have Donovan Smith ownership. I'll say this though, like the last 2 weeks, this team has done nothing in the first halves of these games. Like, they were fortunate last week that they went down so big that their opponent started playing prevent. I guess it's Kansas State, and Donovan Smith was just able to chew them up for the entire second half to get there for you. If that doesn't happen here, man, it's tough. Like, I feel like Donovan Smith's numbers are a bit smoke and mirrors because of these inflated second halves where Texas Tech's been losing by 2 touchdowns or more. But Oklahoma State's defense isn't one I trust. 7K, you still have to consider him. I do like pairing him. To me, it's easy because you pair him with Price, and then you can either run back with Richardson or you run back with Johnson. And I'll have a few of those stacks for sure. What do you like in this one, Bruce?
This was my favorite game when I looked at the matchups early in the week, and I really don't think ownership matters too much this week. There's just no spot you have to have ownership wise this week. I don't feel these two teams just go at such a high pace. If you look at the pace numbers, seconds per play is one I like to look at. Texas Tech is 7th in the country, and Oklahoma State is 10th.
Game's gonna blaze.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. And if you look at the completion percentage allowed by Oklahoma State, it's 67% to opposing QBs. So I do like Donovan Smith this week. Maybe they get out to a little bit faster start than usual. The one thing with Donovan Smith is he loves to take sacks, and this Oklahoma State team hasn't been getting huge pressure on the quarterback. So I do like him a little bit more this week than previous weeks, and I think he can put up a 30 spot here. I really like Sanders as well. He's just I think he's going to score a rushing touchdown or 2 in this one. Just feels good for him. Their offensive line has been protecting the QB well, and Texas Tech loves to get pressure on the QB. So I think they can keep him pretty clean back there. The one spot that I'm going back and forth on is the running back for Oklahoma State, Dominic Richardson. It just feels like a good spot for him. They should put up a lot of points, but always have to worry about Sanders still in his rushing TDs down on the goal line.
Did it quite a bit last week. I think he only had 1 rushing touchdown, but he definitely had quite a few totes that stole potential touchdowns from him. So yeah, that's definitely in the mix. And I'll tell you this, like, it's something to keep an eye on, because if Miles Price doesn't play, this Texas Tech offense is still going to throw the football. So that's going to leave guys like Cleveland and Sparkman and Bradley in good spots. Really, the top 2 that I just mentioned, or the first 2 that I mentioned. I don't like. I mean, I know Xavier White got there last week. That really felt like a flash in the pan. Xavier White, especially if Miles Price doesn't play, anybody you're considering?
Yeah, I was about to ask you about him. He's going to be high owned today. It was a weird thing. He's an ex running back. Coming into the season, he was projected to be one of their top 3 running backs this season. And near the end of that game, they just kept going to him. So I don't know if someone got banged up or not, but yeah, he just really flashed at the end of the game. Maybe it was just a matchup they were going to. But yeah, I like him, but I feel like there's just so many good value plays in that range, that 3,500 range, that you can get a little bit different. He's probably not going to kill you. He's a slot guy, so I think his ceiling's probably in that 18 range or so.
I'd have to look. Is he actually on there too deep, like their depth chart? Like, is he actually?
I had it pulled up because I was just looking at it. No, he's not even on there too deep. So yeah, that's it's just really weird that he just I was watching the end of the game, and I just kept seeing him. Oh, actually, yeah, he is one at the H position with an or with Brady Boyd. So yeah, he is listed as a starter now.
So that's something worth considering. You said he's seeing ownership was 15% ish.
Probably over 20. I think
Wow.
I think most sites like his price today.
Wow.
Uncle,
Yeah.
I'm here. I battled back.
You're sideways.
I'm supposed to. He told me to put it landscape. That's what he said to me. I don't know if that's the correct way, but we'll get it sorted out here. Well, actually, I'll go back to this way. He told me to put it the one way, but we're here.
Mangone's giving people panic attacks with
Well, here's the thing. I was told to put it landscape, right? I had it that way. Second, so my internet sucked, Uncle. Not totally my fault. Helmet kicked me, and once you kick someone out of a Zoom meeting, you can't get back in. So I've been sitting here knocking on the door trying to get in, but you can't stop me.
Look at that room, though, Bruce. It's a vaulted ceiling.
I know. Yeah, that's nice.
You got the sky windows. Look at this.
Yeah, we got the pool table over there.
You don't want that smoke. You don't want that smoke, Mango. Just letting you know.
Oh, I mean, hey, we get this. I'll take the smoke later. Should be fun.
All right. So at least Mangone's back in action. You love to see it. Now, Mangone, we talked on a lot of games.
Yeah, you talked about like the whole slate.
We'll say over the last 5 to 6 games, pick your choice. Anything you want to reference on your own from the last 5 or 6 games that because we're already on the 3:30, so we only have like 1 or 2 3:30s left. But over the last as far as the DK slate goes, the last 5-6 games, any players specifically stick out to you?
Yeah, I'm upset. I missed a lot of the talking about some of this stuff because I can breeze through some of it. Like, so the TCU Kansas thing is interesting because like I don't know what to do with Max Duggan because like I heard you talk a little bit about him, Dunkel. That was when I think I died out, but like I don't know, like what receiver do I pair with him, right? Like it's kind of like to his brother. Like I just hate playing him because I have to figure out what receiver to pair with him, and it's really frustrating. Johnson's been annoying. Jalen Daniels, I don't mind today, but I just don't know what to do with him at 6'9". I do like that he runs a bunch, so that's at least encouraging. The Texas and Oklahoma game, that's a tough one because typically you want to play that game, but like I don't know. Like, I guess this is a big conversation point to have. What are you guys thinking about Bijan Robinson at $9K? Like, it's an expensive price tag. And yes, there's wide receiver value, but like, I don't know. This wide receiver value is okay. It's not like one of the best values that we've had. What was your take, Bruce? Since you're the Texas guy, what was your take on Robinson?
I think I'm just locking him and moving on today.
You're locking him, really?
Yeah.
There's just so many good like 6K running backs, though, right? Like that's I guess the one debate I'm having. Like you could play Dominic Richardson, Sanders. There's just so many like 6K guys that like could absolutely like crush, like Charbonnet. Small could do well, Judkins. So like I don't know. That's the big debate I'm having, at least on this slate. I think it's a huge decision point with your roster construction. Dunkel, what do you think?
Is that my cue to speak?
I don't know. It's just anyone. I'm just curious. I just think it's like one of the biggest conversation points of the whole slate. That's all.
Yeah. So I'm going to probably be either right at the field on Robinson or under on Robinson. Not because I don't think he's a good play, but because I typically try to find my spots to be contrarian on these slates, as you guys know. And I'll be honest, like I like punting the running back position today. I like the Maryland running back. I like the LSU running back. Combined 6.6K between the two of them. And then I can pay for these 6 to 7K receivers and I can get my stud quarterbacks. So yeah, that's the position I'm going to be more overweight on. As far as the middle tier of running backs, I mean, yeah, these guys all have upside, but I don't know. I'd argue that these 3K guys have upsides in similar areas. I don't like any running backs beneath 55 outside of like a Devin Neal or in that area, if you will. And then, like I said, to your point on the 6K running backs, obviously Sanders is in play. I can't play any of the Ole Miss running backs. I don't mind Small from Tennessee. Valladay we'll get to him when we talk. I mean, he's an interesting play. Charbonnet, when he's chalk, never gets there. Richardson, I don't mind, but we already talked on the potential of pilfering touchdowns from him. Like I said, to me, it's either Robinson, Corum, or you punt running back. But so that's how I'm approaching it, Mingo.
Yeah, I guess we just differ on the mid-range a little bit at running back. And I see some people in chat are like, just lock Robinson and move on. Like, yes, no shit, he's the best play of the slate. But he's 9K, right? Like, it's like there are other running backs that can get it there. And we also, as my buddy Dino, he says, we live in a world of a salary cap, right? Let's say you do decide to play Robinson. Well, can you play that Ohio State passing attack with it if you want to? And if it goes off, like, how are you going to feel if you don't have it with that funnel? So, like, it's just like, it's a really good slate. And like 9K is a hefty price tag. That's all. There are 3 logical options that could match Robinson point per dollar wise very easily. There are guys that you could easily go to. So that's why it's a conversation to have for sure. Yeah, his floor is solid, but still, even Allen, who could be a solid pivot. Allen at the top could easily be a pivot that could outscore him. He's not more than likely to, but
he's definitely a solid pivot for sure. And there are concerns that Oklahoma could just like literally get absolutely like waxed. And then out of nowhere, Robinson maybe doesn't get as much work as you think. He's not going to just get 30 carries. And yes, he'll probably be part of it, but I don't know if he gets 25 DK points. Is that enough? I mean, there could be other running backs that are better. So I thought that was a big conversation point. I do think, I know you don't like Corum. I'm surprised you didn't like Donovan Edwards a little bit, Dunkel, just because in that Michigan game, I could see them ease off of Corum a little bit against against Indiana. And then I think Edwards could be an interesting, cheaper option that I think could be pretty good. Charlie Jones is good on the Purdue game, so that's a guy I have some interest in. Auburn, Georgia, I'm not dying to play him in that game. If someone wants to play Bowers, that's fine. Don't want to play anyone on Auburn. I think I heard you guys talking about Utah and UCLA. And Zach Charbonnet is a guy that like has not really gotten like the full workload yet, but like if he gets that workload, like he could absolutely crush. I mean, he has 3 games already where he's over 28 DK points. And this game could easily be one where he just goes nuts. So I think he's a really good play. You can always make a case for DTR. Bobo's a good guy that you can throw in there. And then Utah obviously had the injury. Rest in peace, Bruce's boy. I think he went down. And then we got Kincaid in there, 4.4K. He's going to pop up as like an interesting value. And you can play Rising too as a cheap quarterback. But I don't know. I'm not as excited about Rising just because I think there's some opportunity cost at the position. And I like a lot of other quarterbacks. So I guess that's the rundown of the games that I missed, Uncle. So yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. We'll move on to Northwestern, Wisconsin. Not much to say on this game. Braylon Allen, they continue to price in this nosebleed section. Maybe, I don't even think he got hurt last week. I don't even know what the hell happened this team last week. It was a good spot for Wisconsin to grab a win, and Illinois just slapped this team around, especially in the second half. Really strange game in that sense. But Allen hasn't, I mean, yeah, he's looked great when he gets the volume, but the volume seems to be sporadic for whatever reason. I know they've had a few blowouts, which hasn't helped. Last week just felt like a game where they were just going to pepper him with the ball, and early on they didn't, and then the game got out of hand, and then he didn't see anything from that point. I mean, yeah, maybe a bounce back spot for him. He's probably going to be super low owned, but man, on this slate, it's tough to get to him at 8,500. He definitely has the ceiling. And Northwestern will definitely concede points, but I mean, the ceiling is probably 30. And we talked on, and all the people are talking on what's his name, on Robinson's floor. If you're entering a big tournament today, I can't stress this enough. Like, you need 30 from Robinson. Like, if you're gonna take down a tournament with a guy at 9K on a 14 game slate, it doesn't matter what his floor is. Yeah, his floor matters if you're playing head to heads, if you're playing some 50-50s. Sure, I get it. The floor matters. If you're in these bigger tournaments, unless it's injuries galore again, there's just no way you take down a tournament with less than 30 points from Robinson at 9K. So forget the talks of his floor. You need to worry about his ceiling. And if you think he gets you 30, lock him in and whatever you need to do. Obviously, cash games is probably one of the best cash game plays of the slate, but we don't really talk on cash games anymore, right?
Yeah, he is the best. I mean, he's the best play on the slate, right? Like raw points wise, but like, and of course, like Ibrahim is like not the best example, but like we see guys who are like the best scoring play of the slate bust at times. Doesn't mean you need to like not play him, but just think about how you are going to play him, right? It's just super important. Like there are other options you can go to. Maybe it's the approach of just fading that entire 6K range with running backs and going with what Dunkel said, punting your running backs and then going up to Robinson. But salary is going to get difficult for sure because everyone wants to just spend down at receiver, but it's a totally different build. And it's not the craziest thing, Dunkel. Let's say I build the team out. And I know I kind of cut you off with your rant, but like, let's say you play CJ Stroud, you play Marvin Harrison Jr., right? We'll put him in there. We'll put in Mr. Emeka Ubuka. I can never say his name right, but we let JSN, I'm assuming, like just doesn't play. Bruce, do you know
he's
what the
out.
official?
Yeah, he's out.
Officially out.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And then you plug in Charlie Jones. Now, is there a world where all those guys go off, Dunkel? Like all those guys, right? Yes. And you only technically need 2 things to kind of happen. You need that Ohio State pass funnel to crush Michigan State, which is anyone thinking that Michigan State's not going to get killed with their pass funnel? And then do you think Charlie Jones can just torch today? Yeah, of course. He's one of the best receivers in the league and sees the most targets. Now I have $5,000 left, okay? $5,000. Let me put in Robinson. Oh, nice. I have 3,500 for two running or a running back, a flex, and a super flex. Good luck. It just doesn't work. So yeah, Bijan Robinson could easily. He could get 35 DK points. And you know what? There are routes where he's not on the winner if those receivers are dropping 40s. Like it's certainly possible. So that's just a construction thing. If you decide to spend up at the receiver position today, you are naturally going to have a different build than the field. I don't know if that's why Dunkel likes the spend down running back option a little bit more, but that will naturally make it different for you.
Yeah. I mean, for me, again, I'm always looking for pivot leverage spots, and I'm definitely not right all the time. That's for sure. But yeah, when I start hearing guys like Bruce, the guy you mentioned at 30% owned, who's barely on the two deep, that he's going to be 20% owned, like at 3,400. Like, yeah, I'll happily pivot and take running backs that are dog shit prices to let me get receivers in that I know are going to get volume, and pair them with other, obviously the stud quarterbacks. But there is so many ways you can go, and ownership is going to be scattered, which makes it good. But yeah, hopefully some of the guys, some of the chalk that I fade, hopefully that doesn't burn me. But yeah, definitely cheap running backs for me. Anything else in this game? Wisconsin, Northwestern, there's really not a lot to love. On the Northwestern side, though, I will mention the running back Evan Hull. People talk on guys having decent floors. Like, this guy catches passes. Game script could mean he catches a bunch of passes. I mean, Jesus, in the Duke game, absolutely nuclear in a game they lost by 8 and they were down the entire game. I'm not telling you that's what's going to happen here, but the thing is, he has that kind of upside, and no one's going to play this dude. So I will have some whole ownership. Tough spot to love. The game is going to crawl, which, yeah, it makes it tough to love, but I'll have some.
Don't go. Why play Bijan Robinson when you can play Evan Hull, who has a 55 ceiling? You know what I'm saying? I'm being facetious there, but I mean, I don't know. I think Bruce probably has the numbers on this, so probably talk about it, Bruce. Hull's got like an insane amount of targets too, right? Like, he's running a million routes. Like, I wouldn't sleep on Evan Hull as like a low-owned tournament play.
Yeah, Dunkel just talked about the Duke game. He had 14 catches for 213 yards, 1 touchdown in a game they trailed the whole time. So, yeah, he does have some upside. Just going back to the Xavier White conversation we had a little while ago, I found an article online. It said all 9 of White's catches came after the 6-minute mark of the third quarter. Kansas State played a 3 high safety look. And when the middle safety moved down closer to the line of scrimmage, White just found the hole in the defense. So that it was just kind of a defensive scheme that they were just beating it over and over. So yeah, if they don't play three high safeties today, maybe White doesn't go off at that high ownership, or if they do have a good defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State, so maybe they can take him away. That could be a decent fade today.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll have like 1 or 2 ownerships in total, but not much more than that. To me, he's not worth that price, to be honest. Yeah, obviously, if he's streaking on the sidelines for 80-yard touchdown, that's gonna suck. But either way, 3 games left. So Vanderbilt, Ole Miss. This is the type of game where this would have been a game I would have liked because of the way this flows and the players that can get volume and score. But woof, this pricing is ridiculous. Ray Davis is a guy I loved playing a few weeks ago when he was in that low 6K range and he was in good matchups. This is a brutal matchup for Ole Miss. And I just can't find myself getting to Ray Davis at 69. Ole Miss backfield's nearly a complete split. And it limits both the upside of both running backs. Bentley's out, so yeah, it'll basically be Judkins and Evans all day, but still limits the upside. Jackson Dart is a guy that really does have like 40, 50 point upside. But man, Ole Miss is just committed to running the football with their running backs, and it really limits his upside. The receiving game for Ole Miss has been, if you've been trying to predict this passing game for Ole Miss, I mean, you've probably been losing a lot of money. Mingo is way too talented to have this low volume of receptions. And the Vanderbilt receiving game, I don't trust it either. Shepard and McGowan's price is ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, the pricing is just like, we talk about games being priced wrong where it's too cheap. this game's priced wrong where everybody's too expensive. So easy fave for me. I don't even think I have any pieces in this game anywhere. Anything you guys like in this game?
I like the running game for Ole Miss here. Just Judkins and Evans. Pretty much been splitting carries. I think 58-42 last game. Judkins should see some ownership here. So I don't mind that. Maybe you can get Evans at lower ownership. Should be less than 10% or so. Vandy hasn't been great on the ground, so I don't mind either of those guys. I do like Shepard as a run back for Vandy. This Swan kid for Vandy is really a good thrower. And Shepard is getting around 9 targets per game, has 7 touchdowns. If they're trailing most of this game, if you play a guy like Judkins or Evans, you could run it back with Shepard. Malik Heath has been solid this year for Ole Miss, but yeah, it's probably too thin with the amount of times they throw the football.
Cool. On your end, Mangone, anything for this one?
Yeah, no, I like the takes that Bruce has on the running back situation. Yeah, I mean, you are going to get Evans lower owned. I do think it's right now Judkins backfield, but I don't know for sure, right? I mean, if Evans rips one off for like 80 yards when he's out there for his first carry, which like that certainly could happen. Yeah, I mean, he might be the better play. It just depends who has, kind of falls in the end zone more. So I do think this is a game to look at. I think Dart's interesting too in tournament, just because what his upside could be. And then there are some like interesting options that you can go to as run back options, right? I mean, obviously you can make a case for some of these Vandy guys. So I think all in all, it's an interesting game. The game stack too. It's a total's not bad, but I don't know how much I'll really get there. I think I prefer the running backs the most.
Okay. 2 games left. Arizona State, Washington. I know I've been slacking on giving you guys the implied totals for these games, but Arizona 21.5, Washington 35.5. So it's a tough spot for me because I love Penix's game. Penix, no S, LOL. I love his game. I think he's a tremendous passer. I think he's got NFL draft potential, like good potential. The guy's throwing for 300 yards, and I think every game this year, they just literally just air the shit out of the ball. I think it was the Indiana coordinator or Indiana head. Either one of them is somewhere in Washington, right?
Yeah. Their old offensive coordinator. Yeah.
So they've worked really well together. The problem is the price. So like at this price, with all the other quarterbacks on this slate, he's even priced higher than Hooker. What's Penix's ownership? 5 less?
Yeah. It's probably going to be low. Super low.
So I think there's some potential to play him in the event that this does become an absolute shootout brawl. The problem is you're going to need something unique to happen. Penix can run. He just never does. So he could steal a goal line touchdown or 2. The good part with him is this team just throws a ton. They don't care what the score is. They just air it out a ton, and they have good weapons. The receivers are going to be probably pretty popular here. I know Adunze. Is it Adunze?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. He's going to be very popular today, I would assume. However, like to me, McMillan should be the guy people play. He's cheaper. Coming into the season, the dude had better upside. I just think he hasn't popped off yet. And to me, he's this team's best receiver. I know that, like I said, Odunze's had a good stretch, and I think he's a transfer, right? Odunze, is he? I think of the right guy. Maybe not. But he's played really good recently, so I'm sure that's going to attract people to him. But to me, this has been McMillan's team, and McMillan's due for a breakout game. And this price is very cheap for his skill set. So I'm going to have higher McMillan than Adunze, which will make me a little different in the field. But man, it's tough to love Penix in this spot at 8,500. It's just tough to click on him. Emory Jones is not somebody I can play. This Arizona State team just does not really throw the ball. He doesn't run. Running back though, Valladay, this has got to be the kid from Wyoming. Is that him?
Yeah. Yep.
So he was tremendous in Wyoming, and he's kind of picked up right where he left off now in Arizona State. He's definitely active in the backfield catching passes. Now, this game could get out of hand. Washington's a pretty big favorite on the road, but Valladay is basically game script independent. If anything, if they go down big, he could catch a lot more passes. He's basically on the field almost the entire game. So I don't mind him at 6,700. Probably going to be looked past by some. Talapapa, is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, perfect. Nailed it.
I can't get to him. I take guys with ceilings. When Talapapa is priced at 4,500, 4,800, less than 5K, I'll say, I think he's in play in any week. When he's priced over 6K, I don't think he's in play in any week. If this guy beats me, he beats me. The volume's just never there. You're going to need him to score. And the guy has scored a touchdown in 4 of his last 5 games and has reached 4X at his price, a grand total of 0 times. So he's scoring and not getting there for you. So it's a pass for me. Like I said, the Washington receivers are definitely in play. Mix and match however you like. Polk feels too cheap, but maybe he's just not getting the starters reps anymore. Like maybe he's not in the too deep. He used to be. But other than that, Bruce, what do you like in this game? Penix is obviously a bit overpriced, but the receiving games figure to be popular. Where are you going in this one?
Yeah, I like McMillan as well over the other guy. Polk kind of let down last week, but he's also solid at 4,500. I really want to like the Washington running game because if you remember, I think it was Eastern Michigan ran all over Arizona State. That was the game that got Herm fired. I think that Iowa transfer running back ran for 250 against this Arizona State team. So I really want to play Talapapa, but yeah, that price is crazy. I think I'd much rather play a guy like Cameron Davis at 4,800 if you want to play a cheapie from that game, and he has touchdown upside too. They do put him in at the goal line a good amount. So, but yeah, other than that, Valadez is interesting. Pass catching upside, going to be low owned here. He's interesting, but yeah, it's mostly a stay away for me, other than a couple pieces.
Mangone, what about you?
Yeah, sorry, my phone dropped. My phone is now charging because it's about to die. So it's a shit show over here, Dunkel. We are on the Washington game. I'm not dying to play this game that much. Valadez is, I do like him, but I don't know if this is the spot for it. And like, man, like when you have to play so many like quarterbacks already, like I just don't know if Mr. Penix makes the list for me. I do like some of the receivers. I agree, McMillan's probably my favorite one. I forget the other guy's name, the one that you were talking about before. He's the number 2, but he's solid too. He'll be in my pool, but don't know how much I'll get of him. So overall, that's kind of my breakdown of it. I'm just kind of just sprinkling these receivers and then like going from there. I just don't think this is a game I want to load up on.
Yeah, and the classic late game hammer, obviously Arizona State's, we mentioned a few 4 o'clocks now, but Ohio State, Michigan State. Biggest news here, of course, is Smith Njigba. Bruce, what news you have on him?
Yeah, he's out along with Mayan Williams, the backup Ohio State running back. So makes Henderson a little bit more viable here at that price, even though he is priced up. And his backup is Dallin Hayden. He's 3,900. Has been playing a little bit in these games with Henderson out, and he's looked solid. So I added him to the playbook as well. Just looks like a good play with Mayan out.
Yeah, so Mayan 21 yeah, this is a game that's interesting because Ohio State should be able to run things up against this team. Let me look at what I have for, so then minus 27 totals up to 65. Ohio State has the highest implied team total on the slate, but obviously a lot of mouths to feed. Michigan State's side is really tough to love anything at these prices, which of course is not fun. I'm trying to see if I marked anybody. Yeah, I don't have anybody that I like on that side. Egbuka, I think that's how it's pronounced. The kid from NC State. That was where he was last year, right? NC State, I think.
No, that's a Mecca something else. I can't. I know who you're thinking of because I thought that as well.
Oh, that's not him. That's interesting. I really thought it was. All right, so yeah, I mean he's got to be high. Bruce, what are you seeing him 20?
Oh, he's going to be higher than that. probably double that.
That's crazy on a 14-game slate if he's been 40% owned. But
that's why Marvin Harrison Jr. like just that pivot's like insanely good. Like I don't understand why we wouldn't look to him. He's such a good play.
Yeah, and even like a guy like Fleming, who at 5K has gotten there every week. I know he's scoring and getting you there, but he's got to be on the 2 deep, right? They should have 3 receivers. Their three starting receivers should be them 3, right, Bruce?
Yeah, it's mostly those 2, and then Fleming Fleming plays on the outside. Egbuka plays in the slot.
Yeah, so Fleming should be. I mean, geez, at 5K, like, to me, yeah, I know you mentioned pivoting to Harrison, Mangone. I mean, I'd argue pivoting to Fleming at the price, because again, I mean, this team's going to score, and it looks like Fleming seems to always find the box. But yeah, Egbuka's hard to get off at 67 because just of the sheer volume, and definitely a bit of a misprice. I wish they priced them both at 7,500. It would have made things interesting, but needless to say, we are where we are. What are you seeing Stroud's ownership at 92?
Should be around 20.
That's another thing I find very interesting, because Stroud's upside, especially with Henderson back, like what do you think his ceiling is? Obviously, his ceiling this year was 38. In a game that doesn't figure to be competitive, like I want to play Stroud in shootouts that are competitive. In a game that doesn't figure to be competitive, what do you think his floor is today, Bruce? 35?
Yeah, I think so. They think he can probably win the Heisman too. So, if they go undefeated, I think that's in play. So they may throw a little bit more with him in there. And yeah, it's a terrible pass defense. So yeah, I'd put it somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I mean, Stroud's obviously legit. He's coming off a very weak game. That just doesn't show you. Like, Ohio State goes over their team total last week, and he has 13 points. Like it. So yeah, I do think Stroud is in play. The fact that he's 20% owned to me is a little crazy, but it is from a roster construction perspective, it is pretty simple to get him in there. But Henderson, I do like your call too with the backup running back for Ohio State, Hayden. Because since the other guy's out, you figure in a blowout spot like this, Hayden likely sees like 10 carries in a game, and he could see even more obviously later, because I know there's also like this Henderson's first game back. Like, I can't imagine they're just going to bury this dude with work. But with all that in mind, Bruce, we obviously talked briefly on it, but how are you approaching this one from start to finish?
I think Henderson's probably low owned today, but yeah, I not really sure on the run game today. Probably stay away, other than maybe playing a couple of the 3,900 backup running back. The receivers here are just elite. I do agree with your pivot to Fleming. He I think he has 4 touchdowns in 5 games, or maybe 3 in 4 games, something like that. He looks too good. He passes the eye test when you watch the game. I don't think he should be 5K. He does get less snaps than these other guys, so he probably doesn't have as much upside, but he could catch 2 touchdowns in this one, and I think he's going to be lower owned than the others for sure. Cade Stover's interesting, the tight end, and he's going to be low owned. I think he caught 2 touchdowns last week, so he's on the field most of the game, and I think he's a solid under owned play if you're looking for one. Jaden Reed for Michigan State at 4,900 hasn't been himself this season, but and he does project for decent ownership, because people are looking for that run back, and he is cheap. He's definitely interesting at that price tag.
And Mangone, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I love this game. I mean, obviously I talked about it a ton. If you do think this game does like shoot out, like, man, like, you definitely want the run back. You could also get away with going, I think, Stroud with like one of these receivers. Like, I also don't think you need to do like the double stack. You can easily make it like Stroud with only one of them and get away with it, and then just do like maybe one run back of like Reed or Coleman. So overall, it's a great game. We know the Michigan State pass funnel. I mean, it's golden. It's one you want to get exposure to, especially if you're playing large field tournaments. If you're playing multiple lineups, like, you're kind of afraid to not have one of those teams. I am curious to see. I wonder if this will be like the Big T core, because I know he typically likes like the Michigan State pass funnel, and like, you can argue Michigan State, like, what's the best like pass game they're going to see all season? Like, this is it, right? Like, the question is, can Michigan State, can they keep the pressure on Ohio State? That's the big question. And maybe Ohio State doesn't care. I mean, this is the team that did a fake punt against Rutgers up 49-10. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Michigan State could easily go for the Shroud, trying to get them the Heisman as well. So, a lot of different narratives you can play with it. You can make the case either way, but overall, I'm going to be overweight on this game. I want to be overweight on this passing attack because I know what it can do, and I want to make sure I get some runbacks as well.
Awesome. So that basically wraps up the slate. Hour and a half. We got it good, even though Mangone left us for an hour. Bruce, we still figured out a way to keep it moving. Any final notes, Bruce Mangone, on this slate, how to approach it before we head out?
Looks like Quinn Ewers is starting. So I know that was not really in question, but it was confirmed. Yeah, other than that, I think we've covered anything. Are there any bets you like today?
Yeah, so I bet, and this, at least relative to this slate, let me just confirm. I did bet Kansas +7. Let me see what that line is currently. It still looks like it's 7. I bet over, but that game's not even on the slate. So these other games aren't even on the slate. But I will give you one that I bet for later. And that's Iowa +3.5 versus Illinois. This might have actually gotten bigger. Yeah, it's 4 now. I like Iowa in that spot as a dog. I know Illinois just embarrassed Wisconsin. I just don't think this team's very good, and they just seem to get a lot of market respect. I know this team's also 4-1 ATS, which I don't really care much about that, but the market tends to. So I think that's par for this as well. Iowa I always like targeting teams off when I play an inferior, a much more better team than them, and they get embarrassed. Now that didn't work for me last week with Wisconsin versus Illinois, but going back to Iowa for me there. And again, I like Kansas as a dog as well. So those are 2 bets I fired on. One's on this slate and obviously one's not. And other than that, Mangone, any best wishes for the crew?
Yeah, I bet Tennessee -3. So I posted that on Twitter. So, or -2.5. You got to shop around for the book. You might not be able to get the -3, but there's different books you can shop for it. So, -3, -2.5. I like either though. I think they're both good, but 2.5 is obviously the better line because that's why you got to use different tools like the unabated one. So be sure to use that. Big T is on Hendon Hooker. He said that's his play. Play him and win money. So I already liked Hooker. It looks like I'm going to get a little bit more of him. And yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys. Happy to battle my way back onto this show. It was, not the cleanest show, but hey, we're going to bring some winners, and be sure to get in the Discord chat. And on your way out, hit that like and subscribe to the channel to check out when we got all this content. I believe we have like a Millie Maker show tonight. And I believe we're giving out some tickets for it. So we have that Millie Maker show every Saturday, but I think there's a ticket giveaway. So be sure to check that out and figure out the details. It's on Twitter, it's on the Instagram, and ask around.
Hey, Mangone, what's the current promo code? I'm on Pure Zen for signups.
I don't think there is a promo code right now. I mean, we ran a pretty big one at one point. So yeah, I don't think right now we have one.
Wow. All right. Well, either way, obviously you get all the content. If you watched the show, great. Even if you did or you didn't, you're just catching the end. We'll have all our core plays up for college football for the slate today. We'll all have our own individual cores. And of course, Bruce's playbook to go through it as well. And he always has the late slate as well. And then look, NFL tomorrow, right? So with all that said, gamble responsibly, stay safe. And as always, folks, run pure. We'll see you guys next Saturday.